Good evening and welcome. You guys, I am so excited for tonight. And I know that in the US, it is a holiday. So why don't we all take 1 second to remind all of our friends and colleagues and business partners that the call is starting. Because I think sometimes when the kids are home and you're not working and you're out of your routine, you kind of forget, oh, it's Monday, we're still working. So everyone go ahead, text everyone so we give everybody an opportunity to get on. And we do have 2 translators on tonight, so I'm very excited about that. And you'll be seeing that go on in the chat. So tonight is second call to our science series that I will be doing with Dr. Paul Arciero. And we have a couple of dates. It's going to be going out to all of you shortly. And when I think about why we're doing this, I want to think about why we are all in Isagenix and why are we still here? Why do we want to build a business here? Why aren't we with another company? And I think it's always the same 4 reasons. It is our products, system, compensation plan, and culture. So when we really think about our products, what comes to mind? When someone says to you, why do you love these products so much? What do you say? Type it in the chat. And I bet it's all results driven, right? There's an emotional attachment to all the products we use. We take them, we feel differently, and we go out and we want to share with everyone. There is an amazing opportunity sharing these incredible products, and you deserve to feel this in your body. And then there's a whole other level. Why do we feel that good when we take these products? Why do we want to shout from the rooftops when we are consuming our products? Why, when we deviate, do we say, I need to get back on the system? And that's because there is a whole science behind our products. It is the Isagenix difference. And with the Isagenix difference, I don't think there is really anyone better to talk about and do a deep dive into why this is working in our bodies to give us the results we're getting. And he ties together the entire vision of all the stuff that we have been talking about for so long, all the products that we keep launching and the direction in which we're moving, because we are not some weight loss company. How many of you already know that? We're not. Who are we? We are a company based on science, on scientifically proven products that work. And they work for our families and our friends and the people we know and we love. And tonight I get to, once again, bring back our incredible partner in this, Dr. Paul Arciero. Dr. Paul Arciero is a best-selling author of The Protein Pacing Diet. He is one of the leading experts in the world in nutritional science. He's also a best-selling author. He's a keynote speaker, and he's a peak performance expert. He has published, and this is such a big deal, he's published more than 60 peer-reviewed research studies on performance nutrition and exercise training in the world's most respected science journals. His research is extensively funded by leading government agencies, philanthropic organizations, and nutritional companies. He's a consultant. He's working with, just like me, with corporate and the field to help bridge the gap, to help give people like us an opportunity to talk about science. And going back and forth with Dr. Paul this week, I said to him, you're one of the people that really can teach things in such a way in which I like science, and I am not a science geek. And he has this uncanny ability and just the brilliance to not only teach us, but teach us how to teach other people. So tonight, I'm going to turn the call over to Dr. Paul Arciero, and we're going to do a deep dive into body optimization and not just your weight loss. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Dr. Paul Arciero. Where are you, Dr. Paul?
I'm right here, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. I mean, every time I talk to you, I feel like I need to introduce more Isagenix products into my already complete system. So we were talking a lot about body optimization and really understanding the composition and what does body optimization mean. So when people hear that, I don't know where else we go with that. Can you explain when you use that phrase, what it is you're referencing?
Yeah, I think it's a great starting point. And good evening, everyone. I'm actually calling in today from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So for those of you that follow football, Pittsburgh and Buffalo are two of the NFL football teams that are battling it out right now. They had to move the game because I guess Buffalo had a lake effect snow on Saturday. So if any of you are fans, hopefully this call will be worthwhile. But here in Pittsburgh, the whole city shut down, not just because it's a holiday, but because it's a football playoff day. So yeah, body optimization. I think right now we for sure have a massive, let's see, it says my language has switched. So I'm just gonna, something just popped up on my screen. So I just want to make sure I'm coming through okay. Body optimization is a term that I kind of, I don't know if I can call myself the owner of it or the originator of it, but it's definitely began to resonate with me probably over the last 5 to 10 years, because I noticed that so much of our emphasis on health and achieving health was focused on weight loss. And we know that weight loss can be beneficial, but not across the board, not 100% of the time, and is not guaranteed to result in an improvement in a person's health. And I know that might come as a surprise to some of you, but I think it's really important for us to start to get beyond weight loss, because weight loss in and of itself is not necessarily the end goal. It should not be for us. And so let me explain. When we think about weight loss, first of all, there's many, many different ways to lose weight. In fact, I would stake a claim that every diet achieves weight loss. And that means every diet. It doesn't matter what diet you choose, you are going to be able to choose, you are going to be able to result in weight loss. And that would mean that you could decide tonight that all you want to do is consume Dunkin' Donuts and their coffee. I don't drink coffee, but I hear it's pretty good. You could decide that you're going to go on the McDonald's diet, and you would lose weight. There's no doubt. So you could choose just about any diet of literally any type of food, and you could lose weight. Does that mean that you are going to achieve optimal health? Well, of course, no. We know that weight loss, independent of the nourishment of the quality of the food you're eating, isn't going to result in an improvement in our health. So what we're really striving for, what we should be striving for, is something that I refer to as body optimization. And right now, optimization is the big buzzword in science, because we're really trying to optimize health and human performance, both physical and cognitive and emotional, not just both, but all different forms of human performance, cognitively, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And so when we think of body optimization, we want to be able to engage in a lifestyle that, first of all, as Lisa described, is relatively easy to achieve, one that we don't have to deprive ourselves, one that is not necessarily overly expensive, because those are two massive hurdles. If it's not something that we would be willing to commit to, or something that we could afford, we probably wouldn't choose it. So those are two big hurdles. So in order to do that, you need to have a lifestyle that allows you to optimize your health and your performance. And by the way, one side effect of that optimization may be weight loss. And in most cases, if it's done properly, it will be. But here's the catch. You want that, that body optimization to first and foremost maintain, this might be the first time you've heard this, maintain your, what we call fat-free mass. So as the word describes, it's the amount of mass that we hold on our body that is fat-free. So it would be things like our vital organs, our kidney, our liver, our pancreas, our gut microbiome, our brain, our heart. So all of those vital organs. And then the biggest one of all would be our muscle mass. We also have the organ system of our skin as well. So we want to make sure that whatever lifestyle we decide to embark on, starting tonight and moving forward, for ourselves and for the loved ones that we come into contact with and friends and other people that we meet along the way, that should be our primary focus, our primary goal, that we want to make sure that at the very least, this lifestyle maintains, and an added bonus would be perhaps even increase our fat-free mass. And that's primarily that metabolically active muscle mass is the major one. So I think that's a really good starting point in terms of optimization of our health. Our lean muscle mass, our lean body mass, what we call in scientific terms, there's a little bit of a difference between the two, but for the sake of just understanding this fat-free mass, we don't want to compromise it. For example, when we go on a weight loss diet, oftentimes, yeah, we're going to lose some body fat, but we're also going to lose quite a bit of muscle mass. We also, in many cases, deprive our bones of their mineralization. So that's not body optimization at all. That's an unfortunate, in fact, disease promoting way of doing things. And we just have to stop the madness around health being defined as only weight loss. It's very short-sighted, it's very outdated, and it's very lacking in any scientific evidence. So I guess I'm here to tell you that all calories are not the same. So it's not just a matter of you reducing calories. That would be a huge backfire and non-healthy way to go about improving your body optimization. You don't want to just think about reducing calories. So a lot has changed from the thought process of just simply reducing calories and moving more, right? They call it the eat less, move more model of weight loss. And that's a disaster. That's never worked over the history of humankind, and it will never work. Don't ever buy in or have anybody ever tell you that the best way for us to obtain health is to eat less and move more. That's a recipe for disaster. Those two things set up the most diametrically opposing biochemical, physical, mental, neurocognitive dilemmas that a human organism could ever face, being told to deprive itself of nourishment and exert more energy. That's a disaster for people. So what we're talking about with body optimization is focusing on optimal nourishment first and foremost, and that comes in the form of protein. And as some of you know, I have created a lifestyle strategy that is the most important. So if there's one thing that I can get across here tonight, so if I can leave you with one message, if there's one takeaway, if there's one primary learning concept that I'd love to have you leave the call with tonight, it's protein pacing, because it makes more of an impact on our overall health than anything else that we can do from a lifestyle strategy. And I'm not just saying that as an opinion, I'm saying it as a scientific fact. Anyone that would argue that does not quite know the science behind health. That in order for us to achieve and begin a journey of body optimization and overall health, we need to first focus on the quality of the nourishment that we're putting into our body. And the most important nutrient, yeah, fruits and vegetables are important, but they're second and third to protein. Protein is, without any question, your most vital primary nutrient that you can consume. So as we're striving for body optimization, that is the reduction in body fat primarily, especially the fat that resides or lives around our midsection. So that's body fat. Visceral fat is body fat that accumulates in very high amounts in current day humans, both young adolescents, teenagers, all the way through adulthood. We're now starting to deposit a lot of visceral fat. Before, it used to be only adults that would, accrue this visceral fat. We're now finding it in very, very young boys and girls. That visceral fat that begins to accumulate around those vital organs is the number one trigger for disease, all different types of disease. Metabolic disease, type 2 diabetes, which is occurring now in young boys and girls. Cardiovascular disease, which is both heart disease and stroke. Inflammation and cancers are primarily associated with that visceral fat that accumulates around those visceral organs. Neurocognitive decline, things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, dementia. Those are all things that are having a direct link to increased deposition or accumulation of visceral fat. And then finally, musculoskeletal conditions, things like obesity, sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle mass, osteoporosis, which is a loss of bone mineral density, and all different types of arthritis and other musculoskeletal conditions. So that's the trigger, that visceral fat. We want to make sure that when we go on a healthy lifestyle, we're targeting that fat, but not at the expense of our metabolically active body mass. That would be our muscle mass and our vital organs, our brain tissue. So that's what we're talking about. And the primary lifestyle that allows us to target visceral fat loss and preservation of lean body mass, and in some cases even an increase in lean body mass if you do it really properly, is protein pacing. And what protein pacing is consuming the highest quality protein in the appropriate amounts at the right time during the day. Those are the three main overarching concepts. The highest quality protein in the right amounts at the right time of the day. Those are the three concepts. So what do we know more about how to implement and actually incorporate protein pacing into our daily routine? So number one, in terms of the quality, you want to focus on consuming protein sources that are derived from the highest quality protein that comprises the essential amino acids. And so you may have heard this before. We have two different types of amino acids. Those are the building blocks of protein, much like fatty acids are the building blocks of fat, and monosaccharides, and so single sugars or double sugars, disaccharides, are the building blocks of carbohydrates. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. So you hear a lot of talk about amino acids, and there's two different types, much like we have non-essential fat and essential fat. We have the same with amino acids that are building our proteins. And so what a high quality protein is defined as is a complete makeup of all of the amino acids, especially the essential amino acids. And so what you want to do is just make sure that you're choosing foods. So what are those foods? What foods contain the highest quality sources of protein based upon the highest proportion of essential amino acids? And essential just simply means your body can't produce it. So it's essential that you eat it. And the same with the essential fats that I talked about, the omega-3, the omega-6, the omega-9 fatty acids. You have to consume those because your body can't make those. Same thing with the amino acids. They're essential because you need to consume them. So a high quality protein has a higher proportion of those essential amino acids that you can't make. So what are the highest forms? Well, the highest quality of all protein sources based on many, many decades of really high quality science is whey protein, undernatured whey protein. So that would be the most important form and highest quality source of protein, the whey protein, undernatured whey protein, preferably from out grazing grass cows out in the wild. That would be your top source. And then following from there would be things like pasture-raised eggs, wild chickens running around, wild fish swimming in the ocean. That would be grass-fed cows, grass-fed beef, wild pork, those types of foods, grass-fed dairy products, yogurt, Greek yogurt, milk, whole milk if possible. So those are all animal, and the reason I highlight those is because we know that animal proteins have the highest proportion of those essential amino acids. And the more out in the wild, free roaming, organic that you can obtain those sources, the better off you are. And then the plant sources come in after that, but there's a tricky, I think, formula that you have to take into account when you're looking at plant-based proteins. You have to be able to complement them. That's what it's called. You have to be able to bring them together from different sources. You can't just eat one source. You know, there are things like soy protein. We know that hemp protein, those are proteins complete. And there's other certain other sources of vegetable plant-based sources of protein. But here's the catch. While they might have a complete protein classification, they're very low in a number, not just usually one, but usually a number of the essential amino acids. And that's what the challenge is, because if you're only eating lentils, let's say, and tofu or something like that, it's a little bit harder to get that quantity of essential amino acids up to the level that your body needs in order for it to optimize its lean body mass maintenance. And that's the challenge of relying on only plant-based sources. So I just put that word of caution because I know there's so much emphasis currently on moving more toward a plant-based diet, or a plant strong, as some call it, but there's always going to remain some challenges. And the quantity of food that you need to consume when you're relying on only plant-based sources increases, because in order for you to get the proper amount of those essential amino acids, you need to eat a larger volume of food. So you have to become accustomed to consuming larger amounts of food more often during the day. And so that's a challenge for some people. You have to be a real sleuth in order to get that amount in. So that's priority number one, the quality. And I just went down through the list of how you want to think about rank ordering those. Number two would be the quantity. And the quantity ranges somewhere between 20 at a very minimum. In fact, many scientists like myself are starting to inch that level up from 20 to 25, especially for adults. Any man or woman above the age of 18 should be aiming for closer to that 25 grams as a minimum. That's a minimum that you should consume at each eating occasion. So at any time during the day that you consume a source of nourishment in the form of food or drink, you want to have at least that 25 grams, up to as much as, you're going to be blown away by this, 50 to 100. I know it's like, what, 100? You just blew my mind, Dr. Paul. I know there's been some great research coming out that's showing that for people that are doing more of a time-restricted eating style, that's eating within a 6 or 8 hour window of time, you don't want to eat continuously through that 6 to 8 hour window. That would be very unhealthy for you, because you're flooding your system with a lot of calories within a very short window of time. That's a disaster. You will do not very much good for your lean body mass. You'll actually begin to start to break it down. So for anybody that's out there that's following a time-restricted eating schedule of eating within a 6 to 8 hour window, you want to leave at least 4 hours, and in some cases 5 hours in between 2 of those meals that you're eating. To eat more often than that is it's too much. You're constantly flooding your body with calories continuously for a 6 to 8 hour window. So that's not good. And I know a lot of people have never heard that before. So another thing you can learn here tonight. If anything, if you're doing that time restricted eating of that 6 or 8 hour window, try to eat only at the beginning and then give your body complete time off, and then eat your last meal at the end of that 6 to 8 hour time period. And you can eat, if you're doing 2 meals, you could eat 2 meals of at least 50 grams of protein. That's only 100 grams of protein. That's very, very low. So that's why I'm giving you just at the very least, you want to eat 50 grams at each of those 2 meals. If you're somebody who's only a 1 meal a day eater, as there are some people, and again, I'm not advocating this, I'm just trying to cover all the bases. You want to eat a minimum of 100 grams during that 1 meal. And here's the good news. We used to think that that large of amount of protein would be burned and not utilized by the body. And we're finding that that's absolutely not true, that even up to 100 grams or more at one time, if that's what your body is being delivered in terms of its nutrient for that day, your body will absorb it and utilize it very efficiently. So it won't be burned.
Dr. Paul, one of the things I really want to address, and I don't know if everyone knows how significant this is, the Skidmore study.
Yeah.
So this is exactly what we're talking about. And because there's so many new people on the call tonight, how Isagenix as the system and as the source of protein has scored higher than anything else that's out there. So if you can touch on that and talk a little bit about the Skidmore study, because as a tool, we can show that to someone, but we'll never be able to do it as good as you. So how do I properly share that? And what should I say about that?
Yeah, good. I was going to get to that. I was building up the crescendo, but that's fine. I can jump right to it because so many people right now, Lisa, are doing a time restricted eating. And I just want to let them know that while it might fit your lifestyle, it's not the optimal. And what we're talking about tonight, to stay very focused and on point, is body optimization. So I want to make sure I'm covering what is currently being pursued as people's eating patterns, and this time restricted eating in the short window is what people are doing. So it's okay, but it's definitely second tier to protein pacing, which is what I studied in the Skidmore studies, as Lisa refers to. And so the first one is the quality. Second is the amount. So we're aiming for 25 to 40 grams at each of our eating occasions. And then number 3 point about protein pacing, because I'm talking about the results from my Skidmore studies that use the Isagenix products. Number 3 would be consuming 3 to 4 of those protein pacing meals over the course of the day, every 4 hours. That is body optimization. So if you want to know the way that the results were found in the Skidmore study, it was based on those tenets. And I've left one out, and I'm going to give it to you just right now. So the quality, it was undenatured whey protein to start the day. And then every 4 hours, aiming for somewhere between 25 and 40 grams of very, very high quality protein every 4 hours, not more sooner than that. Because if you start to reduce the time in between meals, you're simply flooding your body with a lot of excess calories, and those go into depositing as excess fat. So you don't want to eat more often than that. So it's every 4 hours is the sweet spot. And then the amount is that 25 to 40 grams. And then here's the final, the fourth major point to protein pacing, which was a primary component of the Skidmore studies that found these amazing results. First meal within 1 hour of waking in the morning, absolutely mandatory. Within 1 hour of waking in the morning, we actually encouraged, I encourage everybody, and in the study, we encouraged all of them to try to do it within the first 30 minutes. And then the last meal within 2 hours of going to sleep at night. I know a lot of people say, oh, I thought it wasn't good to eat, after 8 o'clock at night. And that's that's not true at all. We have very good evidence scientifically that for people to optimize their body composition, so to optimize their loss of visceral fat around their midsection that's damaging their organs and their health, for them to reduce that visceral fat and overall body fat and chisel up their midsection, literally chisel it, and then to maintain and even improve their lean muscle mass, that late night feeding was one of the most important benefits that were proven in the study. In fact, every one of the study participants, and again, these were people that ranged in levels of overweight and obesity So these are people that needed to lose some weight. They said that was those two things, eating first thing in the morning and soon before going to bed, was the biggest game changer for them in relearning, or in some cases learning for the first time, how important it is to bookend your day with first thing in the morning and last thing you do at night with the highest quality protein pacing nourishment. So that's body optimization in a nutshell. I mean, maybe some of you have heard it, maybe some of you have not, but if you truly want to optimize your body, those lifestyle strategies that I just provided you is the highest level. And everyone is borrowing it, right? I mean, I know that some of you are reading some of these books that are out there on the airwaves with longevity. I know there's a book on body composition, the muscle-centric focus that so many people are talking about. Well, they actually quote protein pacing in the book. So yeah, protein pacing will win the day, and it's held the test of time. We know that when people nourish their bodies at that 3.5, 4 hour ideally window, every 4 hours over the course of their waking day, with the first one starting right when they wake up, last one right before they go to bed, or within that 1 to 2 hours before going to bed. That's the single best way to optimize body composition. And the weight loss will begin to just shed. So just to give you a couple of examples on this body optimization, the weight loss was profound. I mean, I've been studying this for 38 years. For those of you that have followed me as a scientist, I've been at this for 38 years. So I know a thing or two about diets and optimal body composition and lifestyle interventions. But if you go back and look at the research that I conducted at Skidmore using the Isagenix system, in an 11-week time period, they lost, on average, 25 pounds. And just to make sure I'm clear with this, these were both men and women. So I pulled the men and the women together. And one of the reasons why I at first compared the weight loss, because everyone was so focused on this weight loss, although that wasn't a major interest of ours in the study, we were looking at the body optimization aspect that I've just talked about using the protein pacing. And then we also had one other strategy that I haven't talked about that I'll mention in just a second, was that many people believed, and many, even some experts thought men had an easier time losing weight. And we set out to see if that was truly the case. And in fact, it was not at all. In fact, women, relative speaking, in some cases can lose even more weight than men. And these were peri, and postmenopausal women. So for those women that are listening on the call tonight, just know that they were some of the most, or I'll say it this way, they were some of the highest responders in this improvement in body optimization. So the loss of the muscle, the fat mass and the visceral fat mass, and the maintenance, in some cases, increase in the lean body mass, were the women around that perimenopausal, postmenopausal category. And the loss of the visceral fat was just profound. So they lost 25 pounds of overall body weight. Their fat mass was 22 pounds. So they lost nearly every bit of body weight was fat mass. And the visceral fat was enormous. They lost massive amounts of visceral fat. In fact, they lost 33% of their visceral fat. It was about the size of a basketball, for those of you that haven't heard me talk about this before. So it was a massive amount. And we used to think, oh, you can't target weight loss, right? You can't spot reduce. Well, following protein pacing, we have pretty convincing scientific evidence that you can for sure do it if you do it the right way. You can definitely target and spot reduce some areas more than others. That's just a known fact. People who used to say, oh no, it's just a general loss of weight. No, it's not. We have scientific evidence that when you follow a body optimization program of the protein pacing, you can for sure target some areas of the body more than others. So massive loss of this overall body fat, and especially this visceral fat that accumulates around our vital organs that we just do not want there, because they hold toxins which prevent and make it even harder for us to lose that weight. So on that topic, I want to transition over to this body optimization picture, because it's more than just the protein pacing. It's a combination of the protein pacing with this nutritional fasting. I know Isagenix refers to it as cleansing. In the scientific terms, I refer to it as it's intermittent fasting, but it's nutritional fasting. It's about providing your body with the most optimal agents, healthy nutritional products to optimize your body's ability to help it cleanse itself and kind of, repair tissue, get rid of old unwanted cells that we no longer want. So we can facilitate and help our body do those types of things if we provide it the right environment. And some people, they just never allow it to allow the body to help it begin to, clean itself and remove old unwanted tissue. And so there's certain things that you can do that can augment and increase the body's ability to do what it's naturally designed to do. And that's get rid of unwanted cells. Because if you allow what we call senescent cells, those are cells that have grown old, and we all have cells that have grown old, our body's constantly turning over. We don't want old cells to stick around. We want maybe the healthy parts of those old cells to stick around if we can still use them, and we can recycle some of the good parts of old cells. But for the most part, a lot of old cells, we don't want to have anymore. It's junk. Literally, it's junk. We want to clear it out of the body. We have a process called autophagy. So it's the self-cleaning that the body goes through. And it's primarily designed to remove those old senescent cells. They become senile in many ways. So we just don't want them. So what can we do to help facilitate, augment that process of the body kind of removing those dead, unwanted components of the cells? That's autophagy. And one of the primary lifestyle strategies to do that is intermittent fasting. I refer to it as house cleaning, vacuuming, right? So when you vacuum your house, it's not a good idea to keep a bunch of old clutter in the house, right? Garbage and old debris, right? I mean, that's going to make it really hard. You can vacuum all you want, but if you have that old debris just hanging around inside the house, clothes that are wrinkled and torn and soiled and no longer usable, shoes that have holes in them, dirty, plates and things that have just become old and non-usable anymore, you can do all the cleaning around those things you want, but you're never going to get the house as clean as it could be. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to get rid of that crap. You need to get a garbage bag and put all that stuff in it and carry it the heck out of the house. And then you can bring the vacuum out. And then you can bring out the method cleaning agents, right? I think method is one that people use. That's kind of more organic and healthy for you. And that's exactly what nutritional fasting does that we used in our study. We designed it specifically to make sure that we were reducing the debris in the house. So we were asking the people to fast, and then we would superimpose on top of that the highest quality, organic, natural, healthy cleaning agents as possible to do a deep dive clean into the house. Man, I can't think of a better way to explain that, but that's essentially what we did. The combination of those two things, the protein pacing that I went through in great detail, that's the number one lifestyle strategy to kickstart your body optimization. And then number two, because these two things work synergistically with each other, the nutritional fasting. So you reduce the calories, meaning you get rid of the old unwanted debris inside your house, and your house is your body. Same way you would in your own house or apartment. You'd want to get rid of the crap that's just cluttered the house before you start to really clean it. That's nutritional fasting, or as Isagenix refers to it, cleansing. So there are certain things that you can consume. So, I don't know if Lisa, you want me to talk about the specific products, but happy to do that. But more importantly is the concept here that when you have those two things working in tandem, so when you fuel your body with protein pacing 5 or 6 days a week, and there are some people who like to nutritionally fast and some that like to do it 2 days. We found in our research studies that when people extended to a second continuous day of nutritional fasting, or cleansing as Isagenix calls it, the results were even more profound. They were even more amazing. I mean, they're amazing. I've been doing this for 38 years, and I've done some really sophisticated, highly rigorous randomized control trials with humans. And I have never seen the results that I've seen with this combination of protein pacing and nutritional fasting, especially the 2-day, but the 1-day was highly effective as well. And so when you do those two things in tandem together, 5 or 6 days a week of the protein pacing, 1 or 2 days a week of the nutritional fasting, the results are just literally groundbreaking, off the charts in terms of body optimization. Loss of body fat, specifically and most importantly, visceral fat loss, and the maintenance. In fact, in our studies, we showed that the proportion, get this, the proportion of lean body mass, that fat-free mass that I talked about, your vital organs, your muscle mass, your bone mineral density, that went up 6 to 9, it's crazy to even say, 6 to 9%. So these people were losing in 8 to 11 weeks, they were losing anywhere between 18 and 25 pounds, 18 to 25 pounds in an 8-week to 11-week time period. At the same time, they were increasing the proportion of their lean body mass by 6 to 9%. That's bizarre. I mean, it's bizarre. Let's just take it as an example, as a comparison. The research that's being conducted right now on the GLP-1 agonists. So that's the glucagon-like polypeptide 1 agonist that's making all the headlines. They go by the names Ozempic and Wegovy. Some people see it as semaglutide or liraglutide. So any GLP-1 agonist is designed to slow down food as it's being digested in your GI tract, your gut, in your intestines. The goal of which is then to suppress appetite, because anytime you can keep food lingering in your gastrointestinal tract, it's going to shut down your hypothalamus, your arcuate nucleus in your brain, to say, hey, you're not hungry. You still got junk in there. And that's exactly how the GLP-1s act. They just simply act by slowing things down, sending the message to the brain, because there's a hotline right to the brain from our gut. And it says, you don't need to eat. You still got junk in there. Don't eat. So what ends up happening, though, is when you don't feel like eating, first of all, the foods that people choose when they're on those drugs are not high quality protein. And so what we're finding now, along with many other unfortunate side effects, not to say that these things are all just a disaster, but they have some side effects that people need to be made aware of. They're slowing down your digestion so much that you don't have an opportunity to even accomplish protein pacing. These people are losing massive. When I say massive, that in some cases is an understatement. They're losing massive amounts of their lean body mass, their muscle mass. So when you go on, just be prepared, and I know people will go on it. You need to pay height. I have friends and relatives that have been on it or who are on it because it's so prevalent. It's like, candy right now. You can go and buy from a drugstore. You can order them online. So, just about everybody's going on these GLP-1 agonists. And one of the things that they are reaching out to me for is to make sure that I am providing them the most optimal protein pacing schedule, because without question, your top priority on any of those GLP-1 agonists should be protein pacing. That would be a disaster if you don't protein pace while you're going on. So we have the solution. So if you're going on a GLP-1, let Isagenix be your best friend. It should be anyway, because that will help prevent this loss of muscle mass. Because once you start to lose your muscle mass, that's when body disaster results. And we want to keep everybody in body optimization. All right. So I've said a lot. I hope it was very worthwhile. I enjoyed it. I always usually do, because, bringing this science to all of you in a way that you can digest it, no pun intended, but literally you can understand it and begin to implement it into your daily routine. That's a huge win. And especially for those different eating styles that I talked about at the beginning, they're for some people, it's just the nature of the lifestyle that they have, that time restricted eating window of 6 to 8. So I want to make sure that you're doing it right. So what you want to do is just make sure that you're having the Isoline Pro with a little bit of tri-release added in it. At the beginning and the end. That's not the ideal. If you can do the 4 protein pacing meals over the course of your day, that's the sweet spot, and that's exactly where you want to be for body optimization.
Paul, how many shakes should I'm average, probably a little bit less than average weight, but I'm average height, and I typically do 2 shakes a day, typically. And I do tri-release before bed.
Good.
So are you suggesting I add more tri-release on the front or back end, or tri-release to one of my shakes already? And another question, I saw this in the chat. There's one about the tri-release and how to properly use it, or Isopro. And how do you see us best utilizing that in addition to our cookies and cream and mocha and all
yeah.
that we love so much? And second question is, if there was another one about, it was protein paste, it was the tri-release, and there was another one that I wanted to tie in.
Well, let me answer this one and then find that other one. Yep.
Let me go back. Yep.
All right. So here's kind of an ideal scenario, and this is what we used in our study. Depending upon their lifestyle and when it was most appropriate for them to eat a whole food, because we're not advocating, no whole foods. That would not be anything close to what I would ever recommend. You want to make sure that you're nourishing your body with the highest quality whole foods that you can, but just be aware that it's going to be hard to match the quality consuming whole foods with what you're going to get in these shakes, because they've been designed at such a high level designed at such a high level. That's the way to put it. So most of them felt like the morning shake was the best way to start the day, because it's got the optimal amount of protein. We were encouraging Isoline Pro. We didn't want any of them to really be below that 25 grams. And I know the Isoline is 24 grams. So we asked many, and it was usually some of the women that were not, that weighed a little bit less. We asked them to include a little bit of either Isopro or tri-release to bring that protein up to closer to 30 grams. So the women were starting the day with 30 grams minimum. That was their target. So it was an Isoline and then a little bit of half a scoop, or if they didn't have the Isopro or the tri-release, it would be maybe a little bit of Greek yogurt or a little bit of milk, or some other really good high quality protein. The Greek yogurt was just an easy one because it would add up, but the easiest was, of course, the tri-release or the Isopro. So that was the start of the day. Lunch could have been a whole lunch. They could have a whole food, or they could have consumed another shake. And there they needed to make sure they were getting in a couple more calories. Actually, even in the morning shake, they were allowed to add not just that extra protein to get up to 30 grams, but also to add some fresh fruit. Many of them were adding some blueberries. Some were adding a little bit of avocado. Yeah, those are the main things. So you could definitely, or they were adding greens, right? And ionics into the shake as well, of course. But we wanted them to get up to a certain level of calories. So lunch, same thing, a shake, a little bit extra tri-release or Isopro with some fruits or vegetables mixed into the shake, a little bit of other healthy fats added in. So coconut sometimes was added. So that was kind of the way that they went about it. And then for dinner was a whole food dinner. So I'm just giving you more or less kind of the standard pattern that our participants were following. Because again, we wanted to make sure that we were providing the highest quality protein pacing that we could. Dinner was a whole food dinner, starting with a very good high quality source of protein. So somewhere between 3.5 to 4 ounces of either wild fish or grass-fed beef or pork. If they were going plant-based, they would, having to eat a little bit more, but it was a complement of different plant sources that they were consuming. We didn't have too many of them. And they were doing the plant-based isolene shakes, those that were doing more plant-based, but we didn't have many of those participants. And that dinner then would also have fresh vegetables and a small serving of a grain or a starch that they were to eat. And then the final meal at the end of the day was usually a tri-release. And the tri-release, of course, is the 25 grams. So they were taking, women were doing 1 scoop, men were doing a scoop, and then a little bit extra to get them up to closer to that 35 grams. But they were ranging at each meal, women 30 grams, we were targeting 30. And here's why. I'm glad we actually brought this up. If you want weight loss, or if you're looking for someone who wants to add more lean muscle mass to your physique and your build, you need to up your protein. I know that sounds a little bit opposite of what most people think. They think, geez, I want to lose weight. You're telling me to eat more protein? 100%, because you are reducing your caloric intake. So anytime you reduce your calories, you need to increase your protein. Because if you reduce your calories and reduce the protein down with it, you're going to put yourself in a state of protein breakdown. You're going to lose your muscle mass way too quickly. So when people reduce their calories, in this case, that's what we were designing the study to do, is to try to give them a little bit less overall caloric intake, not that much, but a little bit more. We had to increase the protein intake. So we were targeting 30 grams for the women at each of those servings. With the exception of the evening meal, they could go down to 25 grams. And then for the men, they were consuming 36 grams. And then for the bedtime serving meal, they could go down to 30 grams. So they were getting, women were averaging about 120 grams over the course of the day. Some of them were a little bit higher, but roughly it was about 120 grams. And then the men were at about 150-ish grams over the course of a day. Some were higher. These are just averages, by the way, for the people. So that's how we designed it, Lisa. That was the strategy. Breakfast, lunch, shake, dinner, whole food meal. And by the way, I say shake, but they were also eating some whole foods with that. So as I said, fresh vegetables and other healthy fats.
And Paul, does the amount of protein that I would take in, does it matter if I'm exercising, not exercising, or I'm not using any kind of weight-bearing exercise, whether it's our own body weight or we're adding weights? So I've heard, and I think most people get confused here, that if it's not a weight day or you're not training your muscles, you shouldn't be packing on the protein, and there should be an average day of protein and days where you're increasing protein. Is there any merit to that?
Yeah, there is. And I didn't want to go down that, but I'm happy to. I'm hoping we can cover the fitness and performance on another call. But yeah, if you're engaged in a resistance, if you're following the Prize Life protocol, of course, that I've created, for sure, you need to make sure that you're consuming a little bit extra protein either before or after the actual exercise. People used to think, oh, I got to get that protein in right after. And that's just, made up. You can, in some cases, it's even better to take the protein in before you do the exercise, because then you have those amino acids in the body as you're doing that resistance training. So yeah, at some point during the day,
it's okay to have a shake before I work out.
Oh,
if I'm
for sure.
Working out.
Oh, 100%, especially if it's a resistance day. Yeah, for sure, it's okay to do that. But you asked that first question, I wanted to answer it, and I forgot what it was. But
do I need to increase my protein on weight days? Or
yeah, I thought there was another one before that though.
Do we all consume the same amount of protein?
No, so it should be individualized, the amount that you're consuming. And the formula, it kind of ranges between like 0.7 to 1 grams per pound of body weight is roughly what we ask people to try to consume. So it varies. So for weight loss, it's actually really important that you're maintaining a higher amount of protein coming in, just because it's so important to prevent that lean body mass loss. That's the biggest hindrance to people successfully achieving body optimization. But with the exercise, yeah. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. In these studies, really important actually, they didn't perform exercise because we wanted to make sure that we were controlling and observing as scientists, just the effects of a change in their nourishment. How is it that just nutrition alone, independent of doing any type of exercise? So they were really limited as to how much movement they could do during the 8 or 11 weeks of the research studies that we studied this. And it was very purposeful that we did it that way, because we wanted to make sure that the findings and the results that we could speak to very directly were due solely to this change in their nourishment. And again, we compared this protein pacing nutritional fasting protocol to the leading diet right now, is just was awarded for like the 7th year in a row, the Mediterranean diet, right? So we were using the heart healthy Mediterranean diet as our comparator, and our results were phenomenal and significantly better than the heart healthy Mediterranean diet. So with exercise, the dynamic changes a little bit, and primarily when you're doing resistance and interval exercise, as well as cardio aerobic exercise, your protein intake should go up a little bit more, because those are forms of movement that are requiring a replenishment of your amino acids at a slightly higher level. So yes, you should bump up at least for one of the meals around the exercise, either the shake that you drink and consume just before the exercise, or the one right after. You should up the protein in each of those, whichever one you're using to boost your protein. But it should go up. I mean, if you're consuming 30 grams, it should go up an additional 10 to 20%. So you should put in an extra, at least at a very minimum of 3 to 9 grams or 12 grams of extra protein.
I love all of this. And I think the next call that we do, and we're going to get out the schedule, we're at the top of the hour already. I mean, it went by like this, and there's so much more information that we want to know. And this is so vitally important. I was always confused about that first shake. If I wait 2 hours before I work out, I was waiting and then, you know, would be like shaking by the time my workout was done, because I didn't want to have the shake beforehand. So just understanding how to best consume our products is so important. And I think for the next call, and you guys stay tuned, it will be on Leaders in the Loop, and of course we'll announce it, we should really talk about peak performance and how to best utilize the system to create that which we all want, especially going into 2024. So I want to thank you for all this incredible information to really help all of us wrap our minds around why our customers are so important, and to go back and to constantly remind them. And one of the things that Paul and I are working on are the fact sheets that you'll have on Isagenix Business, so that you can direct a new customer to say, you should really know why you're taking the shakes, the features and benefits for all of our products, the most widely used products, so that people get not only that emotional attachment, but they understand why it's working and why they need to stay on it. So
Yeah,
Paul, I want to
just,
thank you.
oh, you're welcome, Lisa. No, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to just make sure that people knew that, you know, doing the protein pacing together with the nutritional fasting, the cleansing, is really the sweet spot for so many people, especially when it comes to body optimization. We talk about the fitness and performance, things change, you have to tweak it a little bit, but clearly for people that want to optimize visceral fat loss, abdominal fat loss, and optimize lean body mass, linking that protein pacing with the nutritional fasting or cleansing is the sweet spot, because those two things build on each other. That's the magic. And that's why Isagenix clearly, I mean, I've been doing this for 38 years, clearly sets itself apart from any other health and wellness company out there. It's because they have this locked in, this protein pacing and nutritional fasting and cleansing working together. And the results are just incredible. They're phenomenal.
Well, Paul, thank you so much. I mean, if we weren't fired up enough about our products, and we blew the system trying to order more shakes the other day. So we totally get it, but knowing the science behind why it works. And before we let everybody go, which is right now, no more than 4 cleanse days per month, correct? So either 1 cleanse day per week or 2 back-to-back every other week.
Every other week. That seems to be the sweet spot. Yes. And so that's what we're encouraging. For one of our research studies, we were working with people that had a little bit more body mass to lose. We had them do 2 of those cleanses or nutritional fasts each week. But again, they were at a higher starting point. And at the end of the 8 weeks, then we had them transition to a less frequent. So, but for most people, either 1 a week or 2 back-to-back every other week. And Lisa, real quickly, for those of you that want more of this, a deep dive, Orlando this weekend, they're having an event. The leaders are having an NYKO, a New Year's kickoff. And so I'll be there in person. I would love to see some of you, or if you have friends, we're going to rock it. We're going to rock that place. Disney World doesn't know what they have coming to it.
So everyone, go get your tickets if you haven't already, and I will get the dates out. The calls are recorded. It'll be on Isagenix Business. I want to thank you as always. This is so much fun. Thank you tonight for sharing all of this amazing information.
Love you all. Thanks, Lisa.
Bye.